Hello and welcome to the Voice of Standard Users, a podcast by Ifan. I'm Chaim Oren, your host, and in each episode I speak with leaders shaping industries through standards in practice. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Alex Stoichitoiu, a leading figure in the international world of standards, certification, accreditation, and quality infrastructure. Alex is the president of IQNET and CEO of SRAC, conformity assessment body. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so let me start by the first question. For our listeners who may be more familiar with standards than with certification, could you please explain what IQNET is, what makes it unique, and why a network of 36 certification bodies operating under a single multilateral agreement matters to business around the world?
Sure. Thank you. IQNET, in its way, it's unique because it's what we like to call it. It's probably the largest cooperative international association of independent management system certification bodies. What is different and unique about IQNET is, compared to the other industry association, IQNET is the only one where we have adopted a cooperation model. To give you maybe a similar example, it's somewhat similar the way the airlines are working together through the different alliances like
Right.
SkyTeam, One World, or Star Alliance. Basically, where members try to cooperate, to evaluate each other, to benchmark each other in order to be better able to provide quality services at an international level. And also there is some other very important components like the recognitions of certificates and sharing of resources and so on and so forth. We are currently, as you mentioned, basically covering most of the world. We have over 36 leading members.
Which regions? Can you a little bit expand on that?
Yeah, sure. If we look at the IQNET members, actually, we are quite diverse. We have all types of members, from governmental or semi-governmental organizations, non-profit organizations, and private
Okay.
organizations. Many of the IQNET members are also the certification bodies derived from the national standards bodies in those countries.
Okay.
For example, AFNOR in France, or INOR in Spain, IRAM in Argentina, ICONTEX, and so on and so forth. But also we have private organizations, we have NGOs or nonprofit organizations which activate in this field. As far as the global coverage, basically we cover everything from Argentina all the way to Japan, Europe, and
Wow.
I think
Okay.
we have amongst ourselves branches in over 200 countries.
Very impressive. Okay. So before discussing specific topics, Alex, how would you describe the current state of international standardization and conformity assessment ecosystem? What are the main opportunities and challenges shaping its future, in your opinion?
This could probably be the subject of a podcast by
Long, a
itself.
day long.
And because right now in standardization world, there are many transformations and changes. I think standardizations has reached a crossroads, and
Oh,
there are a series of factors which have happened in the past, which are shaping probably a new path forward. Until now, usually standardization was a very simple business model. National standardization bodies, or NSBs, were developing national standards and ISO at the international level, and they were selling standards as either paper standards
PDFs.
or
Yeah.
PDFs. And it was a very relatively straightforward business model where you pay and you get a document in return. This business model has been challenged quite a lot lately, and there's been a series of factors. Just to mention, probably one that happened recently, there is now a European court decision that states that standards, harmonized European standards, which are part of the official journal in the European Union, must be available for free. So
Oh,
any standard that is basically mentioned in European legislation, according to this court decision, has to be provided for free by the national standards bodies. Obviously, this puts a lot of pressure on the national standardization body and creates a new paradigm where standardization bodies cannot rely always on the income generated from the standards, and basically they have to reinvent themselves and try to find new ways to generate revenues in order to support the
right.
standardization organization. So right now at the ISO level and at the national standards level, there is a lot of discussion regarding how the standardization model is going to function from now on. Some of these changes have already started to take shape. In ISO, for example, the first change was there is a change or a shift in paradigm. Now we don't buy standards anymore, we license them. So they switched from a PDF sale to a content licensing model.
I see.
This
Okay.
is already starting to be implemented right now across the board, and it's a first step. Also, they will analyze different other revenue models in order to be able to ensure the revenues required so that standardization can function. There are many discussions, many aspects. It's a very complex and evolving issue, but it's important that your listeners and our customers are aware that there will be some major changes at the standardization level. And of course, there's a whole plethora of other aspects related to smart standards, the expectations of authorities for a faster standards development, and the many other aspects, which I think will deeply affect the way standardization has worked from now on, which, by the way, has been quite a stable model until now. So this year and the next year probably are going to be
Very
critical,
dynamic.
very dynamic. Yeah, you
Yeah.
you mentioned it clearly.
Never a dull moment. Okay. Certification is often seen as a compliance burden rather than a value creation tool. How does IQNET work to change that perception? And what are the concrete benefits for a certified organization in terms of market access and trade facilitation?
Well, here I think we have to be a little bit honest. A lot of organizations they are made aware of the need for certification, not necessarily because of an internal requirement, but because of they find a certification request in a tender or from because they're part of a supply chain which requires
I see.
certifications,
Okay.
and they start perceiving this, as you mentioned, as compliance burden, which is very unfortunate. Because basically certification should be viewed as a business improvement tool, and that's the essence of certifications. And if you look at certification just as a compliance mechanism that you have to fulfill, just a piece of paper you have to get, you will deprive your organization of most of the benefits that certification can provide.
Can you list the top of the benefits so our listeners can
Uh,
understand? Just
just
the top ones.
just by itself, the certification and a well implemented management system, the core itself, it's continuous improvement of the organization. That's one of
Mm,
the most essential things that even the in the old days of the PDCA 9001 was the essence. So also we're talking about the improve efficiency. We're talking about risk management. We talk about resilience. a well implemented management system can bring so many benefits to an
Mm,
organization, but this can only be done if the organization allocates the right resources and importance to this aspect, and they don't treat it just as a regulatory requirement, as you mentioned. Uh, we at IQNet, at least, we always try to communicate and try to educate people regarding value of certification. Why is it important? Why the credibility of certification is important? Because in a way, one metaphor I use to talk to people who are not very familiar with the system is you have to think at the certification as you would think as a diploma from a university to yourself. Yes,
I
it's
see.
very important to have a nice diploma from a nice university,
Credibility, yes. Okay.
but also what is important is what's behind that diploma and the learning process and the education that you get and the relations and the contacts and the horizons that the
Mm,
degree opens to you. So I don't know if maybe this metaphor is too out there, but I think it's a simpler way to try to make, especially people in small organization and SMEs, which they get in the first contact with certification, to try to make them understand why certification is
right.
important. Uh, they have to think a management system itself, it's a mechanism which it's a cycle which strives to continually improve on organizations in the aspects which are related to that management system type, either it's quality or environment or energy efficiency. And applied correctly, it can bring tremendous benefits to an
Values,
organization.
right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, moving to the next question. The proliferation of private schemes, but also geopolitical fragmentation of the standardization is one of the key challenges for both IFAN and IQNET identified when agreeing to work together. From IQNET perspective, how serious is the threat to the credibility of the international quality infrastructure and for the industry? And what should the standardization community do about it?
I think this is definitely a strategic challenge to the industry. Having too many competing schemes can create confusion and
Mm,
unnecessary costs and complexity. And I think in general, this type of fragmentation reduces trust and creates weakness to global trade and interoperability.
right,
I think definitely think the ISO standard should remain the global reference whenever possible. Private schemes also have their place, but ideally, every private scheme should have at its core an ISO standard. Um, the main issue is that now we have multiple private schemes competing for the
exactly.
same type of product or area, and depending on the scheme, some of them have the best intentions, some of them are created by industry groups, some of them have financial aspects which are related to their functioning, and in the end, for the end user, it can become quite confusing. And in general, the idea of having multiple standardization schemes for a same area
Right,
is in itself a contradiction, because standardization is supposed to be just that. You standardize an aspect, and then you try to come together, make an agreement, and then everybody should use the same standard. Obviously, and maybe people are wondering why is this the case? ISO is fantastic because the way it is organized, it's supposed to bring in all the voices from all over the world and have a consensus.
right.
This may be in a way like democracy, because ISO, it's in a way also a democratic and transparent model, has some disadvantages because it's maybe not so, is not reacting so quickly to some needs. Because part of
Yes.
the process itself, it means listening
Slowing
to
down. Yeah.
everybody, it means taking all the opinions in consideration, and sometimes reaching a consensus across the board might maybe mean a lower level of baseline. but at least this baseline, it's agreed by everybody. And then again, if a private scheme wants to come and improve on that baseline, that is fine. But I still think that baseline should be ISO based. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that. IQNet is at a very interesting point. It's in the intersection of certification bodies, accreditation bodies, and international organizations like ISO. So, Alex, how do you translate what you see from your perspective into practical guidance for standard users and for the companies and organizations that implement standards on the ground? And what is your influence on standards bodies?
Well, myself
Big question, I know.
and IQNet as an organization, we're involved, as you mentioned, at all levels of this industry. We have multiple representatives in ISO, in the global ACI organizations. Global ACI is for the people who are not so up to date, is the precursor of is the not the precursor is the next organization resulted from the merger of IF and ILAC.
I see. Okay.
And basically they handle all aspects related to accreditation. So we have many representatives in many standardization committees, in accreditation, in standardization, and in international organizations which deal with quality infrastructure like INET QI. So maybe we are in a unique position to try to bridge all these areas and try to provide a feedback and a communication channel and try to take concerns and technical issues from one area to another. And in a way, we assumed this role for ourselves, even though it requires quite a lot of effort and implication for our members and from our staff. But I think, as I said, because many of our members are also standardization body, we have a unique understanding of the main issues which are at the horizontal, but also at a vertical level
Right.
in this industry. So we try as much as possible to benefit from our experts and our inputs and try to see if we can influence and help with the development of this industry.
A challenge.
It's
It's
quite
an ongoing challenge.
it's an ongoing challenge, and especially right now when there's so many changes, especially on the standardization side, but also in the conformity assessment side. Let's not
Mm,
forget we have revisions for basically all the major standards in conformity assessment. Just to mention, ISO 9001 and 14001, which comprise the large majority of the conformity assessment certificates out there. So,
right.
yes, quite a challenge.
Very good. Ifan biannual surveys consistently show that SMEs face disproportionate barriers like cost, complexity, and lack of resources when it comes to implement standards and the certification process. What is IQNet doing about lowering those barriers for the SMEs? And moreover, what can the certification community do more broadly to make conformity assessment more accessible to smaller organizations?
Here, I think it's important to mention that the SMEs represent the backbone of most economies. So we should mention that lowering barriers does not mean lowering requirements. There's been many discussions across the years. What is the solution to provide um, let's say a more affordable and easy certification scheme for SMEs, especially the ones in developing countries. And there's been many propositions put forward, starting from ISO light type of standards and other
Mhm.
ideas that they've been floated around. I think lowering requirements is not necessarily the solution. I think now
I said
we have,
barriers. Yeah, barriers.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think we have a unique opportunity due to the advent of technology and the use of digital tools and solutions and even AI, which I think can greatly reduce the cost and friction
Okay.
of implementing and certifying standards in this organization, and is our job, and we also take this quite seriously in IQNet to provide better guidance to help educate organizations and SMEs to understand the business benefits. We have some tools which have been implemented for some time now, which are functioning like integrated audits, risk-based approaches, and so on and so forth, which have provided good results. And also, it's important in some cases to even collaborate with governmental and see if we can have any type of programs, especially for areas which have certain issues like developing countries or third world economies, and see if we can provide any programs for this type of organizations. But in the end, I think the objective should be that certification needs to be looked at as an investment rather than a cost.
Mm.
Yeah,
So there is a need to reposition it
yeah, I think
in
so.
the eyes of the SMEs. They should better understand the merits, as you said, of this certification.
It, it's an ongoing battle to communicate and to educate, and this is
Mm.
something that I think everybody in our industry should do to try to convey to everybody what are the benefits of certification, why is it important, why you can access new markets, you can
Right.
gain credibility, you can improve your organization functioning, you can reduce costs, so you can improve quality, you can have better environmental outcomes. And this has to be done with a lot of effort, a lot of patience, but it is very important, especially for this sector. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sustainability, whether through ISO 14001 energy management system or emerging ESG related schemes, is reshaping what organizations want to certify. How is IQNet helping certification bodies stay ahead of this curve? And where do you see the biggest gaps between what the market demands and what the standards bodies and the certification systems currently deliver?
Very delicate question. Well, I think for many organizations, sustainability has now become quite a strategic business aspect. The requirements and the emergence of ESG related scheme have taken the industry by storm, and they have uh, put things in a definitely a new perspective. We internally at IQNet also try to develop competences in these areas and try to um, address new areas and prepare our members to be able to provide these services. There's many topics right now emerging from ESG, climate, circular economy, AI, carbon footprint, which are starting to take shape and to become relevant. Depending on the industry and the geographical area, some of these issues have become even mandatory in order to do business. So obviously, this aspect is becoming, at least in the conformity assessment world, one of the principal areas of demand
Right.
and growth. Um, Indeed, there is maybe a gap between the market expectations and the evolution that standardization is able to provide. But I think there's been many inroads done, and I think right now I'm optimistic. Um, but still, there are challenges, and one of the main challenges is ensuring consistency across sustainability schemes, uh,
Mm. Yeah.
and there is still some aspects related to duplication. There's still some internationally recognized frameworks that I think are still not fully established and understood by many partners. So even it's a similar issue with the SMEs. There's still a lot of communication that needs to take place, and there is a lot of also internal development that conformity assessment bodies have to do and invest in this ESG field, because there's new sets of competences, there's a new set of
Right.
experts that need to be formed. And I think the organizations which will seriously take the subject and they will make the requirement investments, they will be rewarded, because I think for the next few years, this is going to be one of the main topic in our industry.
Right. Okay. We are nearing the end of our podcast, and I wanted to ask you regarding Ifan and IQNET, which have recently formalized their collaboration. In practical terms, what do you expect this partnership will produce in the next 2 years to the following? First, to standard users. Second, for the certification community. And third, for the broader quality of the infrastructure ecosystem. So this is a strategic question.
Yes, and as I said, IQNET, I think it's uniquely positioned here because we are present in all the branches of the industry, and the area that Ifan covers is probably one of the most important, because you are representing in a way the end customer for us, and communicating and ensuring a communication channel to you, to the rest of the industry leaders and factors. I think it's critical. I definitely think that together we have a stronger voice for standard users in the conformity assessment community. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for joint promotion, for international standards and accredited certification, which unfortunately it's still not fully understood and regulated across the world.
Right.
There's still a lot of misunderstandings related to how the recognition of certificate functions, the MLAs, the MRAs, the different regional and international organizations are functioning, and how proper accredited certification is supposed to be deployed in different economies. And I think it's our jobs together with you to try to increase awareness for the economic value of the quality infrastructure. The quality infrastructure, and actually there are some surveys and exercises done at, to give you an example, at UNIDO, there's a QI index, and the quality infrastructure, I think, reflects perfectly the level of the development in an industry. You cannot have a developed economy without a developed quality infrastructure.
Absolutely.
It is one of the essential pillars in
Key
order
success
for
factors.
economy yes, to function properly, to be able to export, to be able to be successful. And I think we need to contribute to a stronger, more coherent and globally trusted international quality infrastructure. That's, I think, it's something that we both of our organizations should have on our to-do list. And ultimately, I think the partnership should help organization to use standards more effectively to improve performance and to build trust, which trust is still the key word on our industry functions.
Right.
Without that, all the quality infrastructure and everything we do loses its meaning. So, yes.
Very good. Very good. So thank you, Alex, for your perspective and strategic insights. It was a real pleasure to speak with you, and I wish you continued success in leading IQNET as well as in your collaboration with Ifan. For our listeners, stay tuned for more exciting episodes and follow us on Ifan LinkedIn page. And remember, standards make the world go around. See you soon.